How does the internet work anymore? I don't even know at this point. You see all these gray hairs? It's a lot of them. All right, that's a lot. Like, what is this? What is that? I've got like this patch here with no hair. So now I've got gray and none.
The future of music.
The future of music. The future of music.
The future of music.
The future of music.
The Future of Music podcast.
Hello once again and welcome once again to the Future of Music podcast, where we show you how to survive and thrive in the future of music. I'm alone. Again, I feel lonely. There's a little pit in my heart that isn't filled, and I'm not sure if it's because John is gone. I hope it is. We'll see. He is still traveling, but I still wanted to make sure that we brought you some incredible stuff, and I'm really excited about today because it's a little what would you say? It's a little intense, I guess is a good way to say it, right? It's thought-provoking. Ooh, what do you know there? And I'm really excited about it because it brings together a lot of the stuff that John and I have been talking about for so darn long. So let's first remind you to like, follow, click subscribe, click the alerts. I don't even know. How does the internet work anymore? I don't even know at this point. You see all these gray hairs? It's a lot of them. All right, that's a lot. Like, what is this? What is that? I've got like this patch here with no hair. So now I've got gray and none. That's all right. That's getting old for you. But make sure you do that. Make sure you follow us on your favorite podcast platform as well, and you'll be notified every week of when we do this. And by the way, if you're not subscribed on YouTube, we have other content. We post things every single day of the week. So make sure you don't miss out on those. Make sure you subscribe on the YouTubes as well. So for today, we're going to talk about something that's a little bit of a hot button topic, and we're going to bring it all around town, all right? We've introduced you to AI music generation. I believe we've gone over Elvis. I believe we've gone over Johnny Cash. We've gone over quite a few other ones as well. We have been here with you, and you've been here with us, hopefully, seeing that growth occur. Seeing us go from this idea of AI music generation to not being able to understand or comprehend the differences between real musicians and AI. And that's all been within, what is this, episode 49? That's 49 weeks. So less than a year. Less than a year of time we've gone from this idea of AI music generation to now we can't tell the darn difference between AI and real music. So I think it's time to revisit the topic. I think it's a poignant time. Is that right? I don't know if that's the right word, but we're going to go with it. It's important, okay? That's what it is. And it's time to bring it back to the question that we all have. How do the actual people in the music industry look at AI? We could look at it all day. We have fun with it. I mean, I go into AI music generation stuff daily. I have a blast with stuff all the time where I'm creating tracks, listening to tracks, exploring things, and just really getting excited about the potential of AI. And again, John and I have talked about a lot this idea of AI and how we strongly feel that, at least in our generation, it's not going to replace the idea of actual musicians. And it's going to kind of stand on its own. It'll be on its own side of the rings, so to speak, in the battle, in the competition. But it's the other people that are not thinking so highly of AI music. So 200 artists. You would think, okay, 200, that's not that much. That's not. But wait until you hear who are these artists. So 200 artists are now calling for responsible AI music practices. In an open letter by the Artist Rights Alliance, the artists, songwriters, and producers called Irresponsible AI Training, this is a big one, this is impactful, an assault on human creativity that, and I quote, must be stopped. Now, that's pretty intense. That's pretty hard hitting. Okay. And for a lot of us, when we think about that, we're like, okay, well, who are the artists? who are the ones complaining right now? Is it people that are just now getting on the scene and they're having a hard time competing? No. We're talking about Billie Eilish, Pearl Jam, Nicki Minaj, Katy Perry, Elvis Costello, Darius Rucker, Jason Isbell. We've got, who else? Miranda Lambert, the estates of Bob Marley. We've got Frank Sinatra's estate. Those are just a few among the 200 signees to an open letter targeting tech companies, digital service providers, and AI developers over irresponsible artificial intelligence practices, calling such, again, it's an assault on human creativity that must be stopped. So we're talking about some of the biggest acts today and of yesterday as well. Okay, I'm just going to say some of these people, I'm like, oh, you haven't really made music in a minute. I can see why you're upset. I get that. But some of these are really heavy hitters, especially some of the estates that are getting involved. And what do you notice about the estates? We've got the estate of Frank Sinatra, the estate of Bob Marley. If you remember, John and I listening to some of these AI tracks, they were of previous artists who have since passed away, and it's almost identical. So I believe we listened to one specifically for Elvis and then one specifically for Johnny Cash, and it was very close to being perfection. So we have this group that are basically coming out and saying that the human creativity is at stake here. And the fact that your AI is learning as much as it's learning is concerning. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it rhymes as well. So the letter issued by the nonprofit Artist Rights Alliance calls on such organizations to cease the use of artificial intelligence to infringe upon and devalue the rights of human artists, stressing that any use of AI be done responsibly. Here's the key. Here's a little bit of a shift here. They say, and I quote, "Make no mistake, we believe that when used responsibly, AI has enormous potential to advance human creativity and in a manner that enables the development and growth of new and exciting experiences for music fans everywhere. Unfortunately, some platforms and developers are employing AI to sabotage creativity and undermine artists, songwriters, musicians, and rights holders." So here we are. We're at this point where I'm just going to be brutally honest. I don't think it matters. We're at this crossroads, so to speak, where AI is happening. The technology is there. The technology is ever evolving. It's ever growing at this point. I don't know that something can stop it. Sure, can you try to put forth an effort? Yeah. You could have 200 really well-established artists write a letter, really hoping that it proves a point and it comes across and they make change. Let's say that change happens. Who's to say another developer or another AI isn't quickly created doing the same thing? That's one of the issues that we talk about a lot here, is that AI is amazing. It's incredible. But at what point does it become unstoppable? And I think we've crossed that point. I shockingly think right now that we are beyond the point of going backwards or canceling out what's happening, because it has advanced so much so quickly that it's almost impossible to erase that and go backward. So when you look at artists like this really upset about what's going on, it tells me a few things. One, it tells me that they weren't really hip to the game immediately, and they really need to be quicker about getting back behind this. But two, it shows me concern on their end. Because why? Because they're fearful that their careers are going to go under a bit in comparison to AI. And we've talked about this topic plenty. What happens to the music industry as we know it when AI starts to move in, grow, take over, and just expand the way it is and the way it has been? And you could say whatever you want. You could say, well, there needs to be change. Sure, that could be what's happening, and that could be what's needed. But you could also say what I just did. I think it's too late. So I think instead of taking time and focus to pen a letter and say, here's how we feel. We instead need to be thinking of ways to live among the AI, to embrace it, to know that it's not going anywhere, and in a sense, to reestablish the way we think about the music industry moving forward. Sure, all of these names I mentioned, all of them, you can think that they knew and still know the music industry as it once was. That's it, though. They're stuck in that past a little bit, and they know that this worked for them for years, and this new thing comes around, and it's almost like they don't have a willingness to fully embrace what's happening. And I understand. They're saying if it can be used responsibly, use it responsibly, and everything's great. But you really have to embrace all that comes with it. It's not like an AI learning tool can be told, hey, excellent work. Just do these things and not those things. No, it's learning. It's forever learning. When you think about the fact that AI is learning, it's not just learning how to write music. No, it's learning how to write music that sells, that people enjoy, that people get stuck in their head. It wants to create hits. So it's not just learning to create music. It's learning essentially to be better than the 200 people that signed this letter. And you can think of it in those two ways. You can think of it as a negative, or you could start to just embrace and figure out, not that it's a positive or anything, but how do we work around that? How do we manage what's going on there to still be successful, still be creative as a human, but also realize that this is going to happen regardless, and we just have to find ways to live with it. Lastly, the last quote they say here is, working musicians are already struggling to make ends meet in the streaming world, and now they have the added burden of trying to compete with a deluge of AI-generated noise. Let that sink in. So many things in this statement, right? Working musicians are already struggling to make ends meet. That's not because of AI, it's because of the streaming, as mentioned. And what happened with the streaming? If history proves itself again, what happened? It's still going on. It hasn't changed. It's unfortunate in a lot of ways. It really is. I'm not saying that it's not unfortunate for these musicians, but it is what it is the other side of the coin. And you have to find ways to work around that. And a lot of bands are. A lot of bands are doing meet and greets, VIP events and experiences, different things at their live shows. They're starting to get into understanding how to build a business, not just be a musician. So you see ad campaigns going on Facebook, Google, all the things are happening. So there are a lot of them adapting and moving forward. The same needs to be done with what they call the AI-generated noise, the added burden of trying to compete with it. Don't. My feeling is don't, because you can't. So how can we start looking through a different lens here and starting to think, okay, just like streaming, it's still going to stay. So how do I get ahead of this instead of combating it? How do I embrace it? And what do I do with it? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think any of us do, but I think that's where the focus should be. The focus should not be on the elimination and making this extinct and getting rid of it and wiping the slate clean. It's not going to happen. So we have to embrace it and understand. And with that come things like the proper laws around using intellectual property, so somebody's actual voice, and release of that, right? Can it make money? If so, who gets the money? Do we get a royalty? That's the focus. That's where we should be focusing. So, I started this by saying we were initially all together, you and us, introduced to the idea of AI-generated music. So we come from that, and now we've seen this massive growth. We've seen it sound like garbage, by the way. We actually have episodes in the beginning where, wasn't the best. But a month later, updates were made, and it was incredibly different for the better. So we've been along that journey. And now when we revisit, we see that people are still stuck and still not embracing, but also trying to go against the idea of AI. And I just feel like, in my opinion, that's a worthless fight. Because technology is going to be technology. Technology is going to grow whether you want it to or not. It's just the world we live in. It's the year we live in. And we need to make changes to how we actually do what we do as creative human beings while being able to harness some of that and grow. That's my thought initially, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this letter from the 200 artists calling for responsible AI music practices. So let me know in the comments. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree? Are you like me? You're kind of in the middle. You understand, but you also understand what's happening in the tech space. Let us know. I'd love to hear your feedback. And next week, I promise you, my best friend in the world, Jonathan Boyd, is back in action. I think his beard's still there too, so get ready for that. Know that we appreciate you more than ever. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you follow, you do an alert thing, you I don't know what you do on your podcast platform, but save it. Is that it? Is it save? I don't know what it is, but do the thing, and we'll see you next time on the Future of Music podcast.